Thank you everybody for joining us on the webinar Swoop Advisor Setting You Up for Success. Just wanted to introduce, first of all, my colleague Annie Reardon-Smith, who's one of our superstars on the success team here. She works very closely with all of the accounting firms that we work with overall in Swoop for Advisors, essentially helping them think about how to implement our support, how to make the most of the conversations they're already having with clients, how to do more, how to support them with marketing and education. I won't go too deep into it because I know Annie's got lots in store to go through with you at that time. I am Ryan, as you can see on the screen there. I am on the business development team on the platform here. So essentially, I usually talk to accountants in the first instance, get a bit of an idea of how their firm works, or if they're a bookkeeper, or if they're a financial director, how they go about their business, and start thinking with them about what we can do together to basically get more value for your clients and also help to grow their business as well as your own. A little bit of housekeeping first. I should say, as we are on a webinar kind of beholden to the mercies of modern internet technology, if we do drop off, we will come back on as soon as we can. We've been lucky with the connection so far this morning. And in any case, we will be recording the webinar. So if you miss anything, don't feel you have to be scribbling down notes constantly. We will send it out to you, so you'll be able to record it, to watch it rather, at your leisure. So I thought what might be sort of interesting to start with is a question, essentially. A very simple question, but it's quite a broad one at that, kind of a yes or no, really. And I'd be very grateful if you could answer it in a poll, and my colleague Laura will launch it now. Very simply, do you currently have an advisory offering? It's not necessarily the same meaning to all people. We might be talking about funding. We might be talking about support more holistically. It's obviously a growing, evolving definition. And as more and more firms start to focus towards advisory, as well as the traditional compliance role, it's interesting to see sort of how many of you so far are already taking part and already making it part of what you do, part of your core offering, or part of a value-added service as well. While that's coming in, I thought I'd just really start with a very, very brief introduction of who we are. So I know some of you may have a pretty good sense of where we come from, but just to give a bit of context, Swoop is 5 years old. We are essentially set up specifically to help small and medium-sized enterprises find funding. Now, traditionally, we've worked directly with businesses. In the last couple of years, we've had great success working with accountancy firms, with bookkeepers, with financial directors, basically to get a really good understanding of how they work, how their clients work, and really get to thinking about how we can support them across not just debt, but all areas of funding besides as well. The way that you might think of it is as if you had a stool. And if you're looking only at debt to support a client or support a business, that might not do it. That might not cut it. That stool's going to still fall down. If we add things like equity into the mix, well, you know, we're doing better, but we've still only got 2 legs. Now, this is where we come in, and we can introduce things like grants and things like savings to round out, to complete the offering essentially, and make sure that you've got a balanced service that you can provide to your clients. Yes, debt is always going to be a traditional part of what many businesses are looking for, either for growth or consolidation or anything like that. But it's not always the right answer right away, or it's not necessarily the only answer. Sometimes it's part of a broader sort of suite of things that we can do to help. One of the things that we look at, for example, is grants. Now, these are a very good way, as you may know, of engaging with clients on funding. Maybe clients who you haven't necessarily always had that relationship with, you haven't necessarily spoken about funding at length with them. It might not have just come up. And obviously, if you can get a client essentially free money, even if it does have to be matched in some cases, they're going to love you forever, which is just fantastic. That's what we want to see. So we are platform-based. It's very simple just to use the grant finder, first of all, starting at that particular point. There are about 450 grants on there at any given time, which we think is the most comprehensive grant finder in the UK, to the extent where NatWest and Lloyds actually white label it themselves. And on there is all manner of grants. Could be regional, national, local, innovation, even European grants. and they can range in size from a few thousand up into the millions, many of which people may not have even considered for their own businesses, and would be particularly impressed, of course, if their accountant came along and suggested one. Our grant finder searches on location and sector, so it's very easy to find the ones that are relevant for your client. You can apply for them on the platform, and you can even use the services of grant writers that we work with to complete those applications for you. If we're thinking about supporting a business at whatever stage it's at, maybe they're just getting off the ground, maybe they're a mature business that's looking at other priorities. There are different levers we can pull at different stages. And this is where the insights that Annie can bring to the table and Annie's team are going to be really, really helpful here. So we might look, for example, at a client who has an established business. They have really good turnover, but perhaps the costs have started to bloom, not out of control, but a little beyond where they would ideally like. So we can think in funding in terms of savings as much as actually bringing extra money, and how about spending less in the first place? A really good place to start here is with things like energy savings, or foreign exchange or insurance comparison, all of which we can facilitate to basically make sure that your clients aren't paying through the nose for any of those things. And for example, if we can find them a 10 or a 20 or a 30% discount on an energy saving, that might mean that they don't need debt at all down the line, or it might actually mean that they can afford it. So it's going to change the conversation for them, and it's going to change the conversations that you can have with them as well, hopefully for the positive, especially if they're looking towards the future rather than looking just on monthly cash flow at any given time. We can facilitate things like business savings accounts, high interest business savings accounts with instant access, but we can even aggregate together so that if any particular pot is above £85,000, we can actually aggregate those with one access point so that it's all protected. I should say as well, we've had a few responses to the poll there. If anyone does have any questions, do point them out, pop them in the chat, and Annie and I will address them as well. It's quite nice to get a little bit of back and forth there, and we'd love to hear what you have to say or what you want to know and find out. Thinking about grants and savings, there can be very good conversation starters. They're a great value-added piece and a really important part of the funding jigsaw, if you like. We also work in equity. So if you have clients who are looking for investment, if you have clients that are looking to grow in a big way, and maybe they have an innovative new product, something quite exciting, we can leverage our network of investors, about 250 strong, to help support them. We can provide access to pitch decks. We can even give a certain amount of advice to help get those clients closer to being investor ready than they were. So it's a very easy process. You can upload pitch decks to the platform straight away if clients have them. We review those twice a week, and you'll get feedback from that straight away. So very little input from your side, but possibly meaning quite a big difference to the client 3 or 6 months down the line if we can help them find investment. And the debt side is in many ways, is our sort of traditional bread and butter. It's not the only thing we do, but it's often part of the conversation. And to this effect, we work as close to whole of market as we can. And we're always trying to add and build and develop to the offering and work with more lenders and more partners. So at the moment, there are about 500 different lenders that we work with just in the UK, including Northern Ireland as well. And they're all of the big banks. It's all of the challenger banks as well. Funding Circle, iWalker, Lending Crowd, for example, and a lot of niche lenders in addition to that. For example, we have one, and I only realized this myself a few weeks ago, who works specifically in legal disbursement funding. So essentially, whatever area of debt that your clients might be interested in, or that you might be looking in for them proactively, we can facilitate it. At the moment, given the cost of living, given a certain reticence in consumer spending, we've seen a lot of interest in cash flow related loans, for example. So things like asset finance for vans for construction companies, things like trade finance or invoice finance or factoring, VAT, tax-related finance. It's obviously, tax has been on the top of everybody's minds here, probably for the last month or two anyway. I should probably avoid that particular word. In addition to this, we can look at things like unsecured lending. We can look at commercial property. And working the way that we do allows us to be flexible and allows us to put together what we can essentially recommend as the best particular set of options, or sets of options in some cases. I'll give you an example. We started working with an accountancy firm based in Southampton. I'm here in sunny Liverpool today, where it's raining like you wouldn't believe. And they joined up to the platform after we met there, basically in order to find some of their clients' funding. They had 3 or 4 ideas already of some conversations they were having through different management reports and meetings and various reviews that they had undertaken to try and identify opportunities. And strangely enough, we were able to help with some of those clients, but actually the biggest thing that we've done with them so far is finding funding for that accountancy firm itself, which is always an option, of course. You're always welcome to inquire yourself and add yourself to the platforms too. But it's a really good example of how we worked across teams to basically find a solution that would fit. So this particular accountant has done well for himself and is looking for the next challenge. He's not giving up his practice, but he wants to do something else as well. He's a brave man. So what he's doing is opening up a gaming arcade of all things with his colleague, with his business partner. So in order to facilitate this, after a few conversations with the accountant, we realized that the best combination that's going to work for him, with the lowest rates overall and the lowest payments and the best possible terms, with the least guarantee, if you like, from their side, was ultimately a mixture of a commercial mortgage for the new property, asset finance for the machines themselves, the arcade machines, and a mixture of unsecured and secured lending as well. Now, in addition to this, what we're doing in the background, and this is part of Annie's role, is looking actively into things like energy savings for them and seeing if there are any grants available. So in the end, this might be something that actually contains 5 or 6 different elements, but it's something that we've been able to put together and bring not only to that accountant, but it's the same service that we can give to their clients as well. And the same that we would give to yours. Certainly once we have an understanding of how they work, what they do, what their priorities are, and what yours are as well. So I've mentioned a little bit about how we work proactively, what we do to maximize opportunities, but this is really Annie's domain. So I will allow her to take over the reins from me there, and she'll take you through how exactly we can provide you with that support.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ryan. Thanks for the introduction as well. And great to have the overview of what we offer at Swoop. I think one of the questions that our attendees today might ask, because there is such a broad range of ways that we can help, is how do we start? How are we going to implement this? Because it does, off the sort of face of it, sound like it could be quite challenging. And that's actually where myself and Marcus and our customer success team come in, to work very, very closely with our advisors to get this off the ground so that it becomes part of your daily process to be having these conversations with your clients, and so that it's nice and easy for you to identify those opportunities. So the way we do this is, first of all, once you've signed up, is we'd have a really in-depth sort of kick-off call with you, sort of see where you're at, what sort of you're doing with funding at the moment, if it's something that you've outsourced in the past, if it's something that you've not got involved in, and we'll really assess your knowledge and any sort of knowledge gaps. And then that will allow myself and Marcus to sort of really build out how we're going to embed this into your processes. So education is absolutely key, because we can help with so many different areas across loans, equity, grants, and savings. We want to get you set up with the sort of best education workshops and masterclasses with our funding experts. So we have funding managers for each type of product that we help with. And we want you to meet other members of our Swoop team and have these sort of one-on-one sessions where you can bring specific clients, specific questions, and gain a lot more knowledge so that you've got the confidence to go out to your clients and have those conversations. We will also help you build the Swoop into your processes. So whether that's at the time of looking at a client's VAT liabilities, sort of having the conversation like, are you able to pay your VAT bill? Do we need to look at a bit of tax funding? And just making sure that yourself and your teams are up to speed, so that it doesn't get to the end of year and you find out that your client has bought a load of assets that you weren't aware of. We want your clients to get into the headspace of speaking to you so that you can advise them and use Swoop, where we work as an extension of your business to get them the best funding. We will also touch on pricing. Obviously, offering funding as an advisory service brings so much value to your clients, and something that we will do is talk to you about how you can build this into your pricing as well. We can help you with webinars. That's worked really nicely for some of our advisors, especially if they've got clients in specific industries. We can get the right funding expert doing a webinar that we can market to your clients as well. Just adding that value to your clients. Again, we can help with the marketing support. And this is quite a big one. It's amazing to offer funding as an advisory service, but it's, well, how am I going to let my clients know about that? We take all of that pressure off you. We have a self-serve marketing hub, and we can put together bespoke content, email templates, social media assets, anything you like, essentially, so that you can market this to your clients so that they know that you can help with all areas of funding. So yeah, and all manner of ways that we're able to support. One that's proving very popular is us doing some client reviews. So it might be that you've got certain clients you're going to meet in the next 4 to 6 weeks. What we say is send us over their company names and we'll pull together some insights for you. It's really nice to just open up that conversation. So myself and Marcus, we'll look at those businesses. We'll see, is it that they need to, are they sat on cash in the bank? Could it be that they need to look at getting that cash working for them? Do they have the right insurances in place? Are they in, do they have lots of assets? Could we look at asset refinance? Are they needing to sort of purchase new assets in the future? So we can pull together all manner of reviews and then insights into the current market that they work in and the sector that they work in as well, so that you can have the conversation with those clients and bring that value as well.
That's a really crucial point, I think, Annie, on the client reviews. I was quite quick to go through our funding offering earlier, and I know that it can seem like there's actually a lot there. I think a lot of people actually are surprised that we offer so much in the way of funding. They're used to just being told to about debt only, and where equity may be at a push. But it can seem as if we offer an awful lot, and it can be difficult to know where to start. But with the kickoff call and that particular client review that Annie or Marcus will do, that's really key to establishing the first steps. It might be that we only do 1 or 2 things in the first month. They might be small things, but they establish the working practice. They establish how we can deliver value. And while we're getting used to how your team works and you're getting used to how we work, that means we can best integrate before we then start talking about some of those bigger ticket items maybe that might be coming down the list as well. What's also, I think, important, Annie, I don't know if you agree with me on this, but when we do those client reviews, it's often the case that firms that might have said, I'm not sure if we have either enough clients to justify something like this, or if we have the right type of clients. It's that client review that can actually bring those opportunities to the surface that you wouldn't have seen before.
Absolutely. And it is all about identifying those opportunities, because it might be that actually they're not needing to take out debt, but they could absolutely do with an energy review to get their energy bills down, a review of their insurances. It could be that they've got high cash to get into a proper savings account. or just a grant search. So there is always opportunities for every business, because it isn't just the debt side that we can help with.
I mean, I suppose I'd say as well, we realize that you're going to have a better understanding of your clients' businesses, probably in a lot of cases, than the owners, the managers of those businesses themselves do. And that's understandable because their job is to work on what they do. Your job is to try and help them think more widely. But even with that in mind, we never assume that any firm we're working with is necessarily funding experts. That's our role. That's what we do. As Annie says, we provide quite a good amount of education support in the form of masterclasses, for example, and webinars. But having an understanding of a little bit of the basics is going to be very, very helpful here. And it's definitely information that we use when we do those client reviews. A really good example that Marcus shared with me, actually, I don't know if he's mentioned this one to you, Annie, was for a tool hire company. Now, we could see that they had taken out some asset finance that was about 5 years old, and we saw that there was no more new debt of any similar kind since then. Now, that might sort of appear as if they're in the all clear because they're reducing the amount of debt that they have. But what was also happening was that those tools, those machines, were aging out. So they were costing more to run, costing more to maintain, and they were worth less when they were renting it out. So from both ends, the cost was going up and the revenue was going down at the same time. So in that case, we were able to suggest something like, have they considered a renewal of asset finance so that they can actually invest in more up-to-date machinery that's going to cost them less to run, that's going to bring in more, and they might even be able to have more of them as well. So it's an opportunity like that that might not actually scream out at you on a page or on a spreadsheet, but actually can lead to something that's really beneficial to the client as well.
I think that's it. And just having our sort of funding experts and the insights from the hundreds of accountants that we work with, and the different types of businesses, just being able to have those conversations with our advisors. So, that's worked really well for someone else. Have you considered this? And as we get to know our advisors, as they come on board and we get to know them and work really closely with them, we can just pull out insights and get in touch. Be like, this grant's become available. This might be great for this client, or whatever it might be. All about knowledge sharing. We essentially want our advisors to be offering the best value to their clients, and we're there to support every step of the way. So it's very much like a hand-holding process, I would say, and our advisors that get the most success are the ones that lean on us the most. It's not, obviously we've got the tech and we've got the platform and we're a tech business, but it's with the human element. And I think it's the human element that is so important. And that's why we're so successful, is that you've always got that human support on top of the tech.
I couldn't agree more. The way I always think of it is that the tech is what does the heavy lifting, but it's the relationships, as Danny says, that's really the key important part there. I mean, just to give you an example, when you upload a client to the platform, all we need to begin with is roughly how much they're looking for, roughly what their turnover is, and roughly what type of funding, if you know, and when they're looking for it, if you know, if we could be specific at that point. What happens then is that all of those applications go to our team of funding managers here. Now, there are about 30 of them split across the various areas. So in each of those teams are genuinely world-class experts who can give advice, who can work across teams, like in the case of the accountant with the gaming arcade before, to achieve the best outcome. I was just looking at an email that we received internally in the company about our commercial property team a few weeks ago, and they have 105 years of experience between them, which is just astonishing. I didn't even think they had 105 years of life between them, but nevertheless. And some of them a couple of them have spent 15 and 17 years respectively at Barclays, for example. So the knowledge is really profound. Our equity team, for example, has been headed by Kerry, who just last month, I think, was lecturing at the LSD. So there are always the experts that you want here. they're going to be working with you, and they're going to be working with Annie and Marcus. So we will never reach out to a client directly unless you ask us to. You're very welcome to. But you can know that we have the experts here who are going to know and who can stitch the story together. That's the crucial bit. It might be the case that you can find some of this funding on your own. It's going to take some time, which is valuable, especially at the director level. But what we do is we connect the dots, we make it make sense, if you like. So I'm aware that we're getting towards the end of our time here. So I don't know about if Annie has anything else that you want to say, or if we can very happily take questions from the audience as well.
Yeah, I'd say just any questions. We love questions at Swoop, especially for myself and Marcus. We welcome questions daily. There's no question too big or too small. Every question's a good question. So yeah, please fire away if there's anything, or we can take it up privately afterwards.
Yes, we will send you an email after this. It'll have the recording in it, but it'll also have our email addresses, of course, and our diary. So if you do want to book in a more in-depth chat, quite informal, but perhaps a little bit more in depth in terms of what your priorities as a firm are, what your clients' priorities are as well, then please do. We'd be very, very happy to meet you and learn a bit more about you as well. I think I'm going to assume that because we're getting quite close to lunchtime here, people are going to save their questions for after the Tesco meal deal. So I think with that, we shall probably best end it there. Annie, it's been
Fantastic.
Wonderful to webinar with you, and I hope everyone as well at home or in the office has gotten something out of it too. And if you want more again, just let us know.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.